Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role in this transformative era.
Good morning. I'm really excited to be here with all of you to talk about a topic that resonates with our fast-paced, demanding world, the journey towards true fulfillment and self-mastery. As we navigate our lives, we find ourselves pulled in so many different directions by our work, our families, social media, who gives us this vision of what life should be like, and it may not really be an accurate depiction. Expectations from others, our coworkers, our children, and guess what? Even our own inner critic. Yet true fulfillment comes from within. Today, I'm going to guide you on a journey towards harnessing the power that you hold within yourself. We all have tools within ourselves to truly be successful. Coaches help us to bring those out, but we already have everything that we need in order to be successful. Who am I and how did I come about learning these tools? Well, my name is Marilyn Morales. I am by trade a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for about 38 years. Yeah, since I'm 12 years old. Not really, but I did become a nurse at the age of 17 years old. So some of these tools I learned as I was growing up. One of my experiences as a nurse was being a public health nurse in New York City. I grew up in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, when the World Trade Center was hit. That experience alone taught me about the power that I had within myself to overcome some of the challenges that emerged after being a witness to all that happened that day and the aftermath of what happened after that. Following that episode in my life, I also had other things that happened to me. I had a child in 2007 that I lost in 2008 to a rare leukemia. I ended up leaving the only home that I ever knew in Brooklyn and moved to New Jersey. I ended up changing careers or the type of nursing that I was doing after losing my daughter because I didn't know how to navigate my life as a medical professional after not being able to save my own child. So imagine that. Imagine feeling like I have dedicated my entire life to this profession and feeling like a total failure. How was I going to navigate that? How was I going to get back to being who I am today? And I will tell you that in the last 2 years, I've become an author. I've started my own nonprofit organization, and I've also started a for-profit organization. I wasn't able to do any of those things if I didn't figure out the tools that I had inside here. So let me share with you 4 tools that I find to be the most helpful in my journey, and I want to share this with you. Number 1, uncover hidden forces. Hidden forces are things that influence our thoughts, our emotions, and most importantly, our behaviors, the way that we act. A lot of times we walk through life and we have absolutely no idea that these things are actually influencing us. Some of those things are past experiences, like I just shared with you. When I experienced 9/11 firsthand in New York City, I was on the street. I worked right there in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and experiencing the unfortunate vision of that airplane hitting that tower influenced my future behavior for years because I stopped traveling. I would not get myself onto a plane. I couldn't. I missed my best friend's wedding, who was later on that month, because I could not bring myself to get on an airplane. And that happened for years. It wasn't until almost a decade later that I was able to get myself on a plane so that I could travel and have a vacation with my family. Imagine that kind of limitation, but it happened to me. A lot of other things, society pressures. What do the people around us believe that we can do and accomplish? As I mentioned, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in Williamsburg. I grew up in the projects. And the people that were around me, lower income housing is how I grew up. My parents came from Puerto Rico to New York City, not able to speak the language, unfamiliar with how things worked in New York, and were raising a family. So the people that were around me were people who were just on survival, getting through the day, figuring out where they're going to get their next meal, keeping a roof over their heads. Nobody was thinking ahead. Nobody was thinking of starting a business. The other kids that I was playing with and going to school, we were all in survival mode, right? The projects that I grew up in were called Marcy projects, and if you Google that, it will tell you how infamous, not famous, that area was. My everyday was looking at the world through bars on a window so that people couldn't climb into our apartment to steal or to harm us. We listened for gunshots before we left our apartments so that we could navigate the world. This was my reality, which I thought was normal because everybody else around me was normal to them too. So we weren't thinking about what am I going to do as a career? We were just trying to think about how am I going to get through the day? That society pressure was huge. Limiting beliefs. We didn't think that we were capable of being anything in this world if it wasn't for the voice of my mother, who every day told me that education was key, that I needed to do well in school, that I needed to be independent so that I would never, ever be dependent on someone else. I came from a two-parent home. My mom and my dad were there with me. So it wasn't because she was a single mom that she said this to me, but because she herself knew the struggle that a woman, Latin woman at that, was going to go through in order to become somebody. And she knew that I had the potential to become so much more. Because of that voice, I was able to navigate all of that and not listen to the outside pressures that were telling me that because I was a girl, I couldn't do it. That because I was Latin, I couldn't do it. Yes, I could. And yes, I did. And I ask you to look at what hidden influences do you have in your life? Take a look at that. Think about it. Because I will tell you that once you uncover those hidden influences, it's like shining a light into a dark room where you can finally see the things that hold you back. Recognizing these forces, we can free ourselves from these self-sabotaging patterns that prevent us from realizing our true potential. What narratives have I accepted that do not serve me? I didn't accept the fact that I was a girl, I couldn't do things, right? I made sure that I did extra things because I was a girl so that I could turn around and say, you see, I just did it. All those, because I was lower income, I would never be able to be independent, to make more money than minimum wage. I dedicated myself to my education, just like my mother told me to. I became a nurse in high school, while other people were just thinking about getting a job at the nearest McDonald's. I was focusing on something way bigger than that. I kept my eye on the prize. So for you mothers out there and fathers out there with young children, understand that you are a hidden force, that you have to be that person to truly bring out that potential in your children. As you become aware of all of those things and reflect on those questions, that is what's necessary for true personal transformation. The next tip that I learned was cultivating self-awareness, was knowing who I was. Self-awareness is truly the foundation of self-mastery. You got to know yourself in order to master yourself. It's tuning into that inner voice that you have that aligns with who you truly are and what motivates you. Take a moment each day for self-reflection. And what does that look like? What's self-reflection look like? For some people, that's journaling. I will tell you that was something that in my journey, a lot of people told me that the experiences that I was having were not what normal people would have. And I have to agree with that. But for some reason, God put me in that path in order to help others. So I suffered from PTSD after that 9/11 event. I didn't recognize it as PTSD. I had no idea that was what was I experiencing. Because when you think of PTSD, you think of people in the military, those that go off to war. Well, the war was brought home to us. I didn't go off to war, but they brought the war to me. And I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. Neither was the thousands of people that were there in New York City that day. They were not prepared for what they were about to see. I was told to start writing these experiences down before I forgot them so that I could share them in the future. When I went through the journey with my daughter, when she suffered from this rare leukemia, and I would call my friends to tell them how she was doing every day, they would tell me, Marilyn, write it down. Don't forget it. Like I could ever forget any of those things. But writing them down made them real for me, made them emotional for me. So I didn't want to. It was too hard. But fast forward 2 years ago, I wrote a book. I shared the experience of 9/11. I shared the experience of my daughter, and it was the most cathartic experience I ever had. It was the first time I wrote these things down, and it truly worked. Another thing, meditation. I had trouble with meditation because you have to quiet your mind in order to do that, right? And a lot of us have that voice that doesn't shut up. And every time you try to quiet it, it starts talking about all the other things that you have to do. But eventually, I was able to master that too. Let's not take away the power of being still, of just sitting there and letting those emotions come up to the surface and trying to figure out why I feel that way, why I'm acting that way. That is truly a very important tool. These are just some of the tools that help me, and I hope help you too, because figuring out what truly motivates you, what holds you back, will help with authentic growth. Next step is harnessing the power of self-discipline. People look at discipline as a bad word because it sounds restrictive. But if you change your perspective and truly look at it as a tool for freedom, right, it will transform you, because when you harness self-discipline, you create lasting change in your life. Lasting change. Start by figuring out a goal for yourself, a measurable goal, whether it's in your personal or professional life, and then break it down into little pieces, little bite-sized pieces. A personal goal that I have for myself, and many people have, is weight loss. And I remember when I first started doing that a couple of years ago, I needed to lose 30 pounds. My kids were going through big things in their life, and I had to take pictures with them, and I wanted to look good in those pictures. So I started by walking. That first day, that first week, I started with 15 minutes of walking. The following week, I increased it to 30 minutes. The following week, I did 45 and stood there, but it became a habit, a discipline. These things tend to be uncomfortable. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But building habits will support your growth, and that means dedicating time, either to a new skill, learning that new skill, or dedicating your time to health. It's dedicating time. Doing things that you don't want to do, but you know you have to do them anyway. Next step is balancing growth with self-compassion. Self-discipline is essential, but we also have to embrace compassion. Balancing this provides a sustainable journey. We often push ourselves really hard, expecting perfection. The goal is progress, not perfection. Perfection is an illusion. Approach growth with grace. Understand that setbacks are a part of the journey. When you stumble, when you fall, treat yourself with the same kindness that you would treat your loved one, your child, your parent, your best friend. Acknowledge your efforts that you put in. Celebrate the progress, no matter how small. I celebrated every time I walked 15 minutes. And sometimes I didn't, but I gave myself grace and said, tomorrow's another day. I have another opportunity to try again. Or maybe I'll try later today. Set your goals. Sometimes that means resetting that goal. Sometimes it means reevaluating what you're doing and pivoting and doing something else. Compassion fuels resilience. What's resilience? It's the ability to bounce back from challenges and continue moving forward towards your goal without self-judgment. Resilience is my favorite subject. Some people will tell me how strong I am to be able to get through the things that I did and still come out on the other side. And I would tell you that I hated that word, because it means that somebody else that was going through the same things I was, another mother who had lost her child like I did and didn't have the same outcome, is somehow weak. Sometimes these experiences will bring you to your knees. Maybe they didn't have the same resources that I did, the same support system that I did, the same drive that I did. I had it hard from the beginning. I fought my way out of that. That tool from my youth helped me in my future. They're building blocks. Resilience is where you want to be, not strength. Resilience is like that blade of grass that in a storm falls and is flattened to the ground. But as soon as the sun shines again, stands right up. That's where you want to be. I hope that you now have a clear understanding of the steps to harness your inner power and take charge of your life. Remember, true self-mastery isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic, resilient, and compassionate towards yourself. The steps again. Find the hidden forces that influence you. Cultivate self-awareness. Figure out who you are and what truly motivates you. Practice self-discipline and don't look at it as a bad word. Remember to be kind to yourself. The same kindness that you show others, show you. These are the keys to your self-fulfillment. Whether you're looking to enhance your personal life, your professional journey, or both, you have the tools within you to be the master of your own destiny. Thank you for your time, your attention. Let's get on this journey of self-discovery, self-empowerment, and let's do this together. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.